2017-0209, an ordinance to approve and authorize the execution of an agreement between Tauzin Consultants, LLC, and the St. Charles Parish for Governmental Affairs Representation. Mr. Cochran? Oh, Mr. Billy Raymond.
I'll do it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, this is a contract to renew the current contract with Tauzin Consultants. I think after the last council meeting or the meeting before that, there was a presentation done by Tauzin Consultants, which left the council feeling like they really did not give you all anything. So tonight we'll have Mr. Tauzin here that can answer hopefully some of the questions. I think he have given you all a phone call, most he's talked to, and then he's also given some information as to what Tauzin Consultants have contributed over the last year.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Billy Raymond. 2017-0209 is now open for public hearing. If there's anyone who'd like to come up and speak on behalf of this item, please do so now and state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Billy Tauzin, works with Tauzin Consultants in Washington. First, let me thank Guy for that extraordinary compliment, for the work you guys do and cooperation of our parishes. I used to represent Ward 6 of St. Martin Parish, and I appreciate the fact that our parish came to their assistance when they needed it. Secondly, I wanted to give you a report on Steve, one of the 3 members of Congress who represent St. Charles Parish now. As you know, when I served you for 25 years, I had the whole parish within the 3rd Congressional District. 3rd Congressional District has been dismembered, and now the parish is served by 3 different representatives, Cedric Richmond in New Orleans, Steve Scalise here in our area, and also Garrett Graves, whose representative is here tonight, and who used to work for me when I was a congressman. And so we have 3 excellent congressmen serving the area, which is good and bad at the same time, because you have 3 different people to go to. Nevertheless, you have 3 people working for you. Part of my job with other consultants is to help coordinate them into a single, if you will, voice. Garrett used to do that for me when I was congressman, is to bring the whole delegation together behind projects like Mr. Alomar is correct. The most important projects in this area: flood protection, making sure we can build levees, making sure we can protect the people of our communities from the floods that occur. The news on Steve is good right now. He is in intensive care as of tonight, only because he went through surgery again to have an infection removed from the bullet injuries to his intestines. As you know, you can expect that would happen following the intensive surgeries he had. He is expected, however, to come out of intensive care by tonight or tomorrow morning. I spoke to Charles Henry, his district representative here in our community, who gave me the update just a few hours ago. We're also providing him a private plane to come back home when and if he can leave the hospital and come back for his rehabilitation. And Oshner's is working with us and other companies to make sure that we have doctors and nurses with him. We're going to take good care of him. He takes good care of St. Charles Parish and the state. As you know, he is a leader in the House. He is a deputy whip, which is the guy in charge of getting all the votes together for issues. And so his leadership is going to be extremely important. And I'll talk about that in a second when it comes to Go Mesa. You have all received a report from the office on all the activities that we've conducted over the last year, particularly the work done on the Word of Bill, which successfully passed, and which successfully contains the West Shore Pontchartrain project. In Washington, things are done in 2 stages. There's one stage where you authorize work, and the committees of authorization make those decisions. In this case, WRDA was passed as an authorizing bill. What it does when it passes, it authorizes the appropriators then to make appropriations under that authorization. So the authorization is passed. There's going to be a new authorization passed in 2018, rather, excuse me, I'm getting old, in order to fund additional projects under the new WRDA bill. We will be heavily involved in making sure that that new bill is obviously containing those projects that are critical to this parish and the state.
Excuse me, I hate to interrupt you, but we need to, I guess, take a vote to add additional time. We have a motion by Mr. Hogan, second by Ms. Cluley.
I appreciate that.
Please cast your vote on extension, time extension.
I'm gonna try to just capture what you already have in front of you, and then try to close quickly for you.
Okay, that passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Additionally, the second stage is about to happen, which is the appropriation stage. So getting the project into WRDA, having WRDA passed is only first step. Second step starts now. It's the appropriation process. Luckily, we have some very good friends in the appropriation committees and very good friends we can go to on the Senate side as well. I'm fortunate because I've served in both parties, and I still retain great friendships and connections with U.S. senators in the Democratic and Republican Party, many of whom I served with in the House, and also in the House, where Democrats and Republicans, as you know, don't get along too good. We can still go to each side and work very carefully with them to gather support for these appropriations. And we have, as I said, the best man I know, Garrett Graves, working for us to make sure these projects get appropriated as we planned. Obviously, the next big thing they're going to be working on is the flood insurance program. We have some real problems there. The chairman of the committee, Hensling of Texas, is not for any improvements in the program, and the program is running short of funds. And obviously, whatever happens in reforming the flood insurance program is going to dramatically affect every homeowner, every business in St. Charles Parish and our state. And connected with our flood protection efforts, the flood insurance program is tied to rates that are determined on the basis of whether or not you have flood protection. Which brings me to the third very critical area in our report that I want to highlight for you, in addition to all the different items in there, which include a lot of items that you have individual interest in, like a boat launch and other boat launches and bike paths and memorial parks and what have you that we're working on. The other one is reforming the whole method by which mitigation occurs in this state, in this country. As you know, right now, we're required to mitigate 4 acres for every acre we disturb and when we build a levee. What is going on, in essence, is that money that is determined by the appropriators for levee construction is now going instead into environmental protection. Now, I'm not against environmental protection, but when you force 4 to 1 acres of environmental mitigation to provide 1 acre of levee protection, you're taking valuable money away from those appropriators who meant for it to build levees, not to go and protect a wetland somewhere. Now, again, it's a matter that requires great reform. The other thing that happens is they require you to go get the same kind of acreage you're taking when you want to build an acre of levee protection. In essence, you have to go and find that same kind of acreage in a mitigation bank, and they can raise the price on you like crazy. And so more money is shifted away from levee protection into environmental protection. Again, I'm not against environmental protection, none of us are. But we need these levees right now, or all the environment we want to protect will be gone. It is that simple. So the reforming the mitigation process is a big item. And again, Garrett Graves is leading that issue, and I want to focus on it because it's some of the biggest work we're going to do if you approve the contract going forward. Let me tell you what an honor it is to represent the parish again. Much of what I do in Washington is building the relationships upon which those bills, those appropriations get passed. It's keeping very close touch with all the leaders in the House and the Senate to make sure the work the staff does behind this effort that you saw detailed in the report we sent you is actually accomplished. I get to do that again, and it's a great honor because that's what I used to do when I was in Congress. It is paying it forward, Guy, as you said. It's a work of love, and I want to thank you for that honor and that chance. One final thought. You're all lobbyists. You're a good lobbyist. When you come to Washington, you do a hell of a job for us. When we assemble our team, our congressional delegations, and you come up there and make the case for the parish, you're some of the best. So don't let people tell you lobbying is a bad profession. It's a very important thing. It's what constituents do when they walk up to this mic and lobby you one way or the other on a vote. They're all lobbyists. And so are you, and so am I today. It's an honor to be a lobbyist for you in Washington and to try to make some of these good things happen for our parish. We have worked hard for you last year. I'm sorry you didn't get this full report until this month, but you've got it now. Look at it. We worked hard. There's a lot more work to do. If you're not there, personally, somebody had better be there for you. We're happy to be that person for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. 2017-0, 209 is now open for public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak on behalf of this item, please do so now and state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Milton Alamo Hornville. And I'm going to try to stay on the subject. You know, we appreciated the report on the senator that was shot, but that's not what we're discussing here. However, that report was similar to the one that the representatives from the Tauzin group gave y'all about 3 months ago. And I think I sent all y'all an email about that. They gave you a report of what's happening in the state and the federal level in our governments. The same thing that anybody watching the news would know. I also had the privilege of reading this most recent report. And why do you have to request that information? That's what happened. You had to pull that out of this group that y'all paying that's supposed to be representing us. And the most telling thing in the whole report is, at least they were honest about that, there's no funding anywhere. There's no funding at the state level. There's no funding at the federal level. But there is $180,000 that can be kept in our funds. Remember, this group did work for the previous administration, and their service was terminated for lack of performance. I suggest that this council terminate them again for lack of performance. They've been doing this job for a year. They hadn't accomplished anything. They hadn't told anybody anything that a person watching the news and paying attention would not have already known. Those are the facts. He's a smooth talker, you know, been around a long time. He's a real politician. That's what politicians are good at. But the bare facts is nothing's been delivered to our parish. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alamo. 2017-0209 still open for public hearing.
Henry Wolf, Hornville. Last year, y'all gave Tauzin $180,000. One man voted against it. What did they do? Nothing. You got a new president. We act like we don't have 3 congressmen. We act like we don't have a senator representing us. What are they supposed to do? If he can do so much and the people we elected can't do it, what are we giving away $180,000 for? I don't quite understand it. Again, if this were your money, would you spend it and give somebody $180,000 to give you a report on it's in this committee and it's in that committee? Please don't give our money away anymore.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. 2017-0209 still open for public hearing. If there's anyone else in the audience who would like to come up and speak on behalf of this item, please do so now. Seeing none, public hearings closed. Council discussion. Mr. Paul Hogan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I understand some of the concern that the citizens have out there. You know, we did receive the report from Tauzin, which is something that I wish we would have got a long time ago, and interim reports throughout the year to express, you know, the job that they're doing for us, stuff that you can see and stuff that you can't see. You know, right now there's a lot of important things occurring in Washington that we do need as much representation that we can have to represent our behalf and our interests. And I'm willing to go ahead and approve this one more time.
Okay, Mr. Hogan. President Cochran.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Tauzin Group was instrumental, along with the grants office, in getting what we received in the master plan. We meet with them, and I think every one of y'all have partaken in the weekly meetings. I've asked Mr. Tauzin tonight, we need to get more information to y'all that doesn't partake in the weekly meetings. Paul, I think you're the only one that has not. They have done a good job on the state level, the federal level. We've had a new president come in, and I'm willing to give them another year. We're not going to build this levee on our own. We're not. That's a fact. You know, I don't care what anyone says out there. We're not going to build it. You know, you're talking about taking quality of life things away. You know, we were never in a levee building mode until Katrina came. Now we are. So every dime we can squirrel away, we do. And we're trying to be responsible as we go along with other things, to bring other departments up to where they need to be to serve our constituents. You know, I look at Brian Champagne. You know, he is in a closet that our constituents have to go in there and vote. We built a $6 million third floor that didn't alleviate nothing. You know, at least this administration is trying to plan to move forward with different things. I do believe the Tauzin Group has done a lot. And I would ask y'all to renew this contract for another year. And Mr. Tauzin, I'm going to ask that you weekly, after we have our weekly teleconference, that we include all the council members, because we do have council members in there, you know. So thank you very much.
Ms. Fisher-Perrier?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just as Mr. Hogan mentioned, we need representation in D.C. right now more than ever. We have more problems than just funding. So although it may sound like there's no money, which maybe there's not, doesn't sound like there is, we have issues that don't necessarily require funding. We have issues that are related to policy. The National Flood Insurance Program can cripple us if it's not properly formulated, if it's not fixed, not just to our liking, but to the liking of the entire south of the United States. So the Tauzins have opened some doors for us, and I've seen firsthand, and some of these council members have as well. Yes, we do have 3 congressmen, but it's not just as easy as picking up the phone and getting into each one of their offices. They can represent us, they can help us articulate what we need to say, they hear our local concerns, and can speak that language on a federal level. Mr. Tauzin is definitely a politician. He's a great smooth talker. That works in D.C. It's necessary, unfortunately. And some of these policy issues that we have on a federal level, we couldn't fight that battle on our own, and we can't. They've helped us in the past. And, you know, I don't think they were terminated for lack of performance. If we want to go there, it was really more of a political battle amongst some local officials. So I wouldn't say that they were terminated for lack of performance. They've performed every time. And this report that we just recently received, we asked for it. We asked for it to look a certain way, and we got it. We just have to ask. So maybe the fault can lie a little bit on our side as well, that we didn't ask for what we wanted necessarily. So if you're going to get a haircut, you go to that hairstylist and you just say, I want a haircut. You can't complain when they shave your head. So you've got to ask specifically for what you want. And I think we've opened those lines of communication now. So I'm definitely in favor of this again.
Mr. Gibbs?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to be brief. I stepped into this position, obviously, a year and a half ago, and it was introduced to the Tauzin Group. It made it a point to get to know the Tauzins themselves. I knew plenty about Congressman Tauzin, but I didn't know anything about his son, Tom, who I've become, I want to say, friends with. And I'm not in favor of this because I'm his friend, but I do have an open line to Washington, D.C. now, where I can't call Steve Scalise and get an answer right away. I can call Tom. If there's a constituent in my district that has an issue with something in Washington, we have an open line now to at least get any questions or concerns addressed. We absolutely need a voice in D.C. We have to have a voice in D.C. They need to tell D.C. and Baton Rouge what we need. We don't have that luxury to call President Cochran and tell him what we need. We need to get to the highest levels. We have that opportunity with this group. I'm definitely in favor of this for one more year, perhaps all the way down to the level of our constituents in St. Charles Parish. They'll see some results from the Tauzin Group where we have seen the results. I know it's going to be more transparent. We can't be left out. We have to have a voice at the table, and this is our voice for St. Charles Parish. I don't want to try to convince everyone that this is the right thing to do, but at this point, this is what we have to do. So I'm in favor of this. I appreciate everything they've done, and any constituent really in the parish that wants to know what's going on, or particularly in my district, I'm more than happy to give them a an update or an analysis of what we've done. So thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm in favor of this.
Thank you, Mr. Dick Gibbs. Pretty much the administration knows my position. At the conclusion of the meeting just a year ago, Mr. Billy Tauzin came up to me at the end of the meeting, shook my hand. He told me, he said, I know sometimes you have some difficult decisions to make. He said, but we're going to work hard to prove you wrong. And I'm man enough to, I'll be up here to sit here tonight and tell you if by chance I thought that your presence in Baton Rouge with John Bell Edwards, because you mentioned when we was in D.C., the close relationship you all had and the issues that we've had on the state level. I know this administration, I've met and I've voiced my sentiments with Parish President Cochran. I don't really see where we got any benefit on the federal level, and the administration agreed. I even told the administration, I said, why do I elect 4 representatives and 2 senators to go to D.C. to spend 20 years to get a good pension and then become a lobbyist and then look to parishes like we are while we got money to get $200,000 a year? No, I don't look for that. So I didn't support it a year ago, but not that I didn't feel that St. Charles Parish would benefit from a lobbyist. I just felt that the timing was not right. I even asked the administration, I said, why do we have to do it? We have no lobbyists right now. Y'all contract expired June 6th. For 2014 and 2015, we had no lobbyists because the parish president then, no matter what we did up here, with all the resolution we put forward, he refused to sign the contract. And Mr. Cochran, I don't agree with you tonight, and I didn't agree with you before when it came to the master plan, because we're one of 209 projects on the master plan. None of them's funded. You only go get funding for 85 of them. So I don't really see where any bright light at the end of the tunnel where we guarantee we're going to be amongst the 85. So I'm not going to support it tonight. I mean, I didn't support it, and I didn't have any regrets. I looked at some of the reports that we got monthly. I looked at the one briefly that we got the other day, and I think it's, you know, with all of the foolishness that's going on in Washington with draining the swamp and the administration trying to reverse everything that was put in place for the last 8 years, I don't see where any lobbyists, I don't care if it's Adams and Reese or Tauzin or anybody else, can do us any good. I think that $180,000 would be better if we kept it at home and used it, and that's all I have to say about it. Ms. Cooley?
Thank you, Chairman. We may have 3 congressmen and 2 senators representing us in Washington, D.C., but successful legislation takes more than those 5 votes, and that's where the Tauzin Consultants can help us there. So thank you.
Mr. Cochran.
I don't agree with you. First of all, Mr. Wilson, you didn't play a big part on what was going on in Baton Rouge with Bradbury and all of them. So I don't know how you can base your opinion on something you never really had a hand in, but I will respect your opinion. That I will do, but I don't agree with it, okay? And I'll leave that at that. Mr. Tauzin mentioned some very important things up here that we need to be very aware of, people. Go Mesa, very, very important to this parish. Now, if none of y'all know what Go Mesa is, go home and look at it. Look it up. It's very important to this parish. And our president is going to get rid of it. First call I made was to Mr. Tauzin. I said, Billy, this can't go away. He said, Larry, I'm on it. It's not going away. WERDA. We didn't have a clue what we were doing when we went up there with WERDA, okay? None of us had a clue. We brought the Tauzin group up there. They got involved. WERDA passed. If WERDA gets funded, St. Charles Parish is in that loop. So we just going to give up now? I don't agree. I agree now with WERDA passed, we just got to find the money to fund it, which I believe they will, which will help our levies. As Mr. Allen so eloquently stated, the people of the parish passed a tax. That tax is nowhere near what we need to build our levy. So we need to look under every rock, everything for money to get this done without taking a quality of life from our citizens. So I think this is a good thing. I agree with you, Mr. Wilson. I mean, I disagree with you professionally, but that's fine. I think we need to keep them for another year, especially with word on the table and with Congress coming in and hopefully funding that. And not only that, go Mesa. And all of y'all, I encourage all of y'all to spend some time with that young lady right there, Carla Chasson. Raise your hand, Carla. Okay? She knows more about what's going on than probably me and Billy Raymond, and we know pretty much a lot. So I encourage all of y'all to spend some time with her, and she can educate you. Thank you.
I'm gonna say one last thing on this topic, and then we'll move on and take a vote. I mean, we're going through a formality here tonight because before we even arrived here, we knew it. I mean, I knew where this thing was going. So we need to cut this dog and pony show out because this is going to probably go on throughout the end of your tenure. I look back to when in 2013, when this council, and Mr. Fortier was part of this council, and all the stuff we did, no matter what we did as the legislative branch of government, under the St. Charles Parish Home Rule Charter, the parish president showed us, I'm not signing the contract. And for 2 years, we went, hold on a second, I have the floor. For 2 years, we did not have a lobbyist. It wasn't until you came in office in 2016 and you felt it was imperative to put this thing in place in June, and nothing's been delivered yet. So, I mean, whether or not, if we all was in support or agreement with this, whether we go through all this veto, dog and pony stuff we did with the previous administration, you as the parish president, we follow your lead. You put this stuff before us. So at the end of the day, the council voted on it. The council supported it. Whether we get goose egg, which we got, I can see us Gospel Life sitting right up here next year, same thing again, and you're going to have your 5 solid votes, and this thing's going to pass. So, I mean, phone calls, all that conference stuff, I'm not wasting my time. I'm not going to support this time. I don't think I'm ever going to support it unless I see something produced, because this is taxpayers' money, and just this choice and this decision look like the taxpayers should have some legal recourse behind some of these bad decisions that we make up here from time to time. But I'm going to move on. Let's cast a vote.
I'd like to call for the question.
Move on. Okay, we have Ms. Perrier.
Call for the question.
Well, I had Ms. Perrier and Mr. Gibbs. You
Call
have
for the
anything?
question. You cast your vote now.
Okay, okay, cast your vote. And that passes with 5 yeas and 1 nay, the nay being myself.
Not hard words.
2017-021.
0180193, an ordinance to approve and authorize the execution of an agreement between Tauzin Consultants, LLC, and St. Charles Parish for governmental affairs representation. Ms. Benedetto.
Thank you, Council Chair. This is merely renewing a contract that we had last year.
Thank you, Ms. Benedetto. The public hearing was previously satisfied by any council discussion. I'd like to make a motion or a request before we have council discussion. I know this contract went into effect, if this is passed on August 1st. I'd like to see if we can make this retroactive to July 1st. July 1st, Tauzin has worked through that month and without a contract, and I'd just like to see if we could get it. I have a motion by Ms. Benedetto, a second by Ms. Perrier to amend and offer a retroactive date of July 1st. Please cast your votes. And that passes with Mr. Wilson voting nay. Now for council discussion, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll try to make this brief. I guess this is our third go-around with this contract renew under this administration, and I had difficulty supporting it the first 2 times, but There was some conversation that dates back to April when Councilman Woodruff and I discussed it, and we were looking at the possibility of amending it to where we would keep them around for just federal support and, drop the state portion. And really, I was on board with that. But based on 5 sponsors keeping it as it is, I'd imagine it's inevitable that it will no doubt be passed intact the way it is. So, and my reasoning for doing that, with the most recent information with West Shore and looking back at some of the work that was done, so I said, well, maybe, they had something to do with the $760 million, although Natalie Rowbottom in St. John has lobbyists, and they're getting a lion's share of the money. But I was going to give them the benefit of the doubt and support them on a federal level, but with it in the way it is right now, I'm not going to be able to support it. And, so once it goes up for vote, I'll pass President. That's 3 things you could do. 1, you'll probably sign it, which I know you will. 2, you can veto it, or if you want to save face, you can choose not to sign it and let it go into law without your signature. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Hogan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Same thing here. I'm in support of their federal representation, but not on the state level. I asked for it to be split up into 2, where we can vote on both of them separately, and it wasn't done. Like I said, I'm in support of them federally, but not locally, and I'm going to vote against it, therefore. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. Any other council discussion? Seeing none, please cast your votes. And that passes with Mr. Hogan and Mr. Wilson voting nay.